That's one thing you noted earlier in your first comments. The governor can't just look at, or the state personnel board, they can't just look at Andre McLeod and say, "Wow, she's a kook," and this is all kooky. We're not doing anything with this. They have to. They're obligated by the state constitution to investigate these things.
Well,
as you said,
yeah, by state law, absolutely. That they're doing their job. And this exhibit here that's been provided by the Personnel Board demonstrates how seriously they take their job, how professional they do their job, and this is the same board that took to task the Attorney General Ranks, and he ended up resigning. They did a full, complete investigation of that. This is not a patsy. This is not the governor's puppet. That every time they lose a complaint, those are the allegations they make. And they continue with the false canard that she appointed all these people, when that's just not true either. Or that, quote, they work for her. They don't work for the state at all. None of them are state employees, and by law they cannot be state employees.
She also, the governor, they were originally appointed all by Murkowski, former state governor Frank Murkowski, and then reappointed, I guess, by or allowed to continue.
One was reappointed, the chair.
All right.
Two, their terms still go. I think they have 6-year terms, and that's important to note also. There's a reason for such lengthy terms. That is to make sure they are above and beyond normal partisan politics and the normal political cycle.
So only one of the sitting board was reappointed by the governor then, and we can all just say, hopefully it doesn't have any finding in all this, but Governor Palin and Frank Murkowski, let's just say, didn't get along real well. Okay, so
they opposed each other in the primary election.
So okay, let's go to the third one before we go to the break here. The chronology of the list suggests that 43. Let's go down here. The third biggest case listed was 29,962, according to Cockerham, is also from last year. Based on the chronology, it is possible that the complaint made against Palin for having the state pay for her children's travel. Palin ended up settling that complaint by agreeing to reimburse the state about $8,000. Because these complainants have lost so many of these cases, they really try to hang their hat on this one here, Counsel, that the governor had to pay $8,000 back to the state for what I'm sure the complainants would say, see, she broke the rules and she had to pay $8,000 back. She's guilty of violating an ethics complaint. Would you correct that all for us?
Yeah, if that's what they say, they've never read the document produced by the Personnel Board resolving that. Here's the truth regarding Mr. Gwartney's travel allegation. The Personnel Board investigated, looked at it closely. Mr. Petumnis was the attorney hired on that one as well. He made a formal finding that the statute and the regulation here were, quote, dizzying and circular. In other words, they were so unclear, he couldn't tell how they applied. Therefore, if you talk to any lawyer about this, if you have a statute that is so unclear, even the prosecutor doesn't know what it means or how it should apply, you don't have an enforceable law. So what was the net result? The Personnel Board recommended that the Department of Law write a new regulation to address travel issues for the first family, because really there wasn't any real guidance. So the governor had not violated any law because, as the Personnel Board concluded, there was no law really to violate at that time. There was nothing concrete to go by. They, no pun intended, were flying by the seat of their pants.
Right.
So the governor voluntarily agreed to comply with what we think the new standard is going to be. I know probably the ADN will never report that fact. It was an effort for her to comply with a new law that has yet to be written. I really don't know hardly anybody who would agree to that, except somebody who's trying to demonstrate the highest level of ethics, and yet it is portrayed by some of the media and her detractors as a defect in ethics, when it's exactly contrary. But people will see what they want to see.
There was a Vanity Fair. Let me do this before we go to. There was a Vanity Fair article that talks about the governor. It's pretty much a hit piece. Talking about the governors having postpartum depression. Any comments on that? Actually, I saw a gentleman on MSNBC who is this? What's this gentleman's name? He actually kind of
that's a medical diagnosis. First of all, lay people, journalists have no basis speculating on a medical diagnosis like that. People should be pretty shocked and amazed that a layman would throw out a medical diagnosis. Did you see any doctors quoted in that? Obviously not. So that's what makes it a hit piece. I think that's fairly outrageous. It's really another form of sexism, by the way. You don't see these allegations being made against male leaders that their family issues prevent them from focusing on their job. It's leveled at this governor, who happens to be a mother and also a grandmother.
Yeah, it's something else. Also in this,
it's rank sexism.
Also in this Vanity Fair article, it talks about if Sarah Palin says, with Palin's record, a second glance, if Palin had looked like Susan Boyle, in other words, they never would have given her even a look. So the only reason that Sarah Palin made it to the national stage with John McCain is because of her looks. I mean,
that's just more pure sexism, and they should be ashamed for publishing that kind of tripe and that type of discriminatory conduct.
Thomas Van Flein, legal counsel for Governor Palin, thank you so much for all your time and walking us through some of these expenses. I think people of Alaska got to be concerned. We'll say goodbye to you. Thank you so much, and we'll have a good 4th of July.